Hi, I'm Gina Din-Kariuki and you're watching Shaping African Conversations. This afternoon we've just opened our offices here at 9 West and I have a very close friend of mine, he used to be my client, Michael Joseph, he used to be CEO of Safaricom and entrusted us with building the Safaricom brand from a PR point of view. I was not about to open my office without Michael, so I'm really excited to have Michael with me, and we're going to talk today about what PR did for Safaricom and how we built not just the Safaricom brand, but how we helped Michael build his own personal brand. And as we know, Michael's a bit of a celebrity CEO, and he's really much loved by Kenyans, and particularly because of his honesty and transparency. And I think when Michael came to Kenya, we saw a transparency and an honesty that we really hadn't seen from the corporate world. So I think Michael kind of set the bar for how other corporates were going to act, and so it's my real pleasure to have you here, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice
So Michael, take us back to 2000 and you coming to our offices. We'd been hired already by Safaricom, and you come to our offices. You were only in Kenya, I think, 3 days by then?
Yes, it was quite an occasion because I had never been to Kenya before, and I was told we have this PR agency. Actually, I didn't even know what a PR agency would do for us, but I had to go and meet the PR agency, and I drove there, or someone drove me there, and we arrived at this what appeared to be some sort of campsite, with shambas there, or what's the word?
Shacks.
Shacks, shacks. And this was the Gina Din offices. This is the PR agency that was going to represent us to the world. And I was sort of taken aback by saying, this is it. But anyway, we overcame that, and we had a long chat about Gina. And actually, when you think back to the start of Safaricom, and I've said this quite a few times, we started Safaricom, we knew nothing. And we made many decisions at the time knowing nothing.
Absolutely.
And now when you look back, the decisions that we made were very wise decisions. But at the time they were not wise decisions. And many times we discussed, what should we do? It was more than just
Intuitive.
a PR agency. It was more, look, what should we do? Do you think we should do this? What do you think? And things like that. And I think that's really what helped us put on the right road. I remember, trying to make a decision even about the logo.
Exactly, I remember that discussion. Yeah.
Should we call this Safaricom? And you advised me to keep the name Safaricom because it was a Kenyan name, and it was a great piece of advice because from that time onwards, we were always going to be a Kenyan company.
Exactly.
Even the colours of Safaricom in the early days was the colours of the Kenyan flag.
I remember us sitting in your offices at Norfolk Towers and going through the logo and looking at it and saying, okay, well, let's have it. And we just wanted it to be owned by Kenyans. And I think clearly we achieved that, right?
Yeah, we did. And it was really even the slogan, and I'm sorry it's not there anymore, but we called it the better option. Not the best option, but the better option, which meant there was always going to be better. And I think that's our beginnings. And we chose. At that time, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we chose. In the end, it was the right decision. Yeah.
And Michael, they say building a brand is usually a marathon, and it takes time. But you were always in a hurry. It was always like a race. And working with you definitely felt that way because you put so much pressure on your team. What was that like for you to actually come into a country where there wasn't really a mobile industry and build not only the brand, but build the industry? What was that like? What was the challenges that you had to overcome?
Well, of course, it was very exciting, but also very stressful because you could have made many, many mistakes. And I think it was really exciting. But I think building this brand, I think the best thing about building Safaricom's brand was we wanted it to be a Kenyan brand, and we pushed, even though we were 40% owned by a British company. We still wanted to be a Kenyan brand, and I think this is what drove us. Even not knowing the business, even deciding whether we're going to be a prepaid customer base or a postpaid. The fact is we couldn't afford to be a postpaid customer base initially because we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
And we had very little money actually in the early days. And so all those decisions that shaped the future of Safaricom were taken in those first 6 months of our existence. And you remember well the famous debacle of us when we launched Safaricom on the 20th of October, on your birthday. 23rd of October, we launched it on your birthday.
I made sure of that.
Saturday night, down there in the carnival grounds. It was a really nice launch, I think.
Like 7,000 people. It was amazing.
And we ran out of beer.
Yeah, ran out of beer. And then the network crashed.
And the network crashed on the Monday.
On the Monday.
And it was down for a week.
And that's when Michael's famous saying of Kenyan's peculiar
No,
calling.
That came later.
Oh,
that
okay.
came later. That came later when we built the network and we got it going, but we didn't always have enough money
Oh, that's right.
to keep up with the growth and the capacity, because we became very popular very quickly.
Fast.
And we didn't have enough money to keep up with the growth because we didn't have enough investment. And what happened was every Friday night, like tonight, is today Friday?
Yeah.
No, today's not Friday. Today's some other day, right?
Today's Tuesday.
But anyway, on a Friday night in Nairobi at those days, there was a lot more traffic on a Friday night, and people used to always phone on a Friday night sitting in the traffic jam, and the network always used to crash on a Friday night. So somebody on TV asked me what's going on, why the network crashed, and I kind of said, well, why can't Kenyans call other times of the day? Why do they always have to call at 6 o'clock at night, which is when the network crashed? And then the phrase was conjured that Kenyans have peculiar calling habits, which I never actually said, to be honest, but it was attributed to me.
You insinuated.
Yes, I insinuated, yes.
But I think, Michael, what sort of endeared Kenyans to you was that you were just really honest. I mean, you came up, and I think that was something that we worked on together. It's like, okay, well, the network's crashed, so we're just going to admit that the network's crashed. And I think, we were so used to sort of having, CEOs sort of putting band-aids over situations. And you just never did that. You were just very honest and authentic. And I think your style of leadership was just was bad, just authentic. And sometimes that got you into trouble.
Yes, indeed, a lot of trouble, a lot of times. But I think there's a memorable event that I gloss over it sometimes, but when people say, did you make some mistakes? There was one very big mistake I made, and probably I should have taken better advice. But what I did was, when we got some money, eventually, we got a bond offer, and then we were able to put a switch in, and we didn't have any more congestion. So I decided to reward Kenyans for their loyalty to us. So I secretly decided to add 100 shillings to everybody's account to reward them for their loyalty. You remember this occasion?
I remember it because we had told you. You shared it, and we'd said, no, Michael, that's not a good
idea. That's not the
idea.
right thing to do.
You went ahead.
But I went ahead and did it. But I did it in secret because I wanted to surprise everybody. So the advert only went in the next morning to say, thank you, Kenyans, for your Safaricom. Thank you. You've got 100 shillings extra credit, or 200 shillings. No, 200 shillings.
200, yeah.
200 shillings to spend. But I did it in secret, and I shouldn't have done it in secret. So what actually happened was, at that time we had a very dodgy switch, and the guy was in Dubai who put 200 shillings onto everybody's account. But halfway through, or 1/3 of the way through the process, the line dropped, because remember we still had satellite connections.
That's
and
right.
the line dropped. So he started again, but instead of starting from where he stopped, he started from the beginning again. So now people got 400 shillings credit. And then it happened again. It happened 4 times. And then suddenly in the middle of the night, somebody sitting in a bar somewhere dialed 141 and suddenly had 800 shillings worth of credit.
Yeah.
And he thought, the word spread, that if you dial 141, you get so much credit on your phone, because it just mysteriously appeared. So the word spread throughout Kenya, overnight, in the middle of the night. People were calling up in the middle of the night.
3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock in the morning. I remember John Ngumi telling me he got a call at 2 o'clock in the morning. Top up, dial 141, dial 1, you'll get credit. So they called me at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I rushed to the office and said, what's going on? We thought that there was lots of rain. I thought there was a flood somewhere, but it took us an hour to figure this out. So then when I figured this out, remember now we were a small company, just got a loan, just got financially stable, and then I decided to reverse it, because then I had 800,000 customers, 1.6 million customers. I had to reverse it. So then it started coming down.
And by 8 o'clock in the morning.
And then everybody realized that the money was coming down. So now people try to spend the money. The network was jammed for a whole 5 days.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful.
I made a mistake by not telling people in advance.
Yeah.
And I had to go on TV.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said you need a PR company, because then you're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
Now you need to go and explain what the hell you did. And you had to stand up front and say, look, I made a mistake. This is what I did. They didn't believe me, because the explanation sounded so way out there. But that was what happened.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember being really upset with you. Like, Michael, why didn't you share
But
this?
the other side of it is, I don't want to take over your interview, but the other side of Gina and her advice to me was, one thing Safaricom for now is it's a very CSR-oriented company. We are involved in every part of Kenya, in everything people do. And the decision that we made at the time was, instead of doing the easy thing, was to cut a check for 200,000 shillings or 300,000 shillings and go to 5 children's homes, and preferably on a tar road, and then give the check, get your picture in the newspaper. We decided to do it with great difficulty. Of course, Gina all sorts of upset, because we then cut hundreds of little checks, and we went and gave them away to all sorts of people across the country, opening up chicken houses, donating a cow. I even have a picture of me with a ribbon on a cow, you know.
And the medical camps.
Medical camps, dormitories,
Yeah,
even
all sorts of things.
in Nanyuki, in the children's home in Nanyuki. So we did a lot of little things, which meant that Safaricom was everywhere. Of course, we had to have an event for everything. So Gina's staff was run ragged around the countryside. And so we had all these events all over the place, all with all the hangers-oners and things like that that you need to have, and the politicians and all that sort of
I
thing.
think we had like 4 teams running, you know, in different parts of the country.
But it was a fantastic idea.
It was.
CSR was one of the best marketing devices we used.
And I think, Michael, it was also, you know, at that point when you took Safaricom from being successful to being significant, and you started the Safaricom Foundation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it was because the CSR platform had been established so well, and it was just incredible. But I don't know if you remember this. There was a time that, you know, I was quite involved with sort of helping you choose the CSR projects, and we got this letter from a politician sort of asking for a gate for a project that he had somewhere up country. And so we agreed. You know, he had this children's home and he wanted to secure the children. So we agreed. Safaricom agreed to fund the gate, and the gate was ready, and we were getting ready to go up there for an opening, and the team went up before and realized that there was a gate, but there was no fence.
Yeah, just a gate.
So we quickly had to cancel that. You know, so we had some just really interesting fun times, and just made us realize that you actually have to check everything. If somebody asks for a gate, you know, you have to make sure that there's other things. Yeah.
We did many things, and I think that's what made Safaricom so successful, because we then became well known as a Kenyan company in part of everybody's life.